Walkout with Paul and Jay, with red hot stories from post game, interviews, analysis, debate the hour, right here at the Growler.
All right, welcome into the latest edition of the Walkout, presented by Cincy Shirts. Paul Dehner Jr., Jay Morrison, here with you. I am here in Baltimore, Jay, at the Homestead on a late night. We're into Friday morning now, Jay. On a night where the Bengals lose another improbable instant classic between Burrow and Lamar Jackson, 35-34, unable to complete a 2-point conversion in the final seconds to get the win. This game got drunk fast. It went from this game's okay, it's going along okay, the Bengals are playing well, to just insanity, a bonkers fourth quarter, massive scores and answering each direction. If you're a football fan, you love it. If you're a Ravens fan, you really love it. If you're a Bengals fan, you are so sick of this crap happening, where you feel like you had so many high highs and so many great things happen, and then you look down and you say, another loss? How is it possible to have another loss in one of these games where so many things go right, Jay? It's turning into an almost impossible run this season.
Yeah, it really is. And you could sense the frustration from Zach and from Joe. Joe particularly talked about that, about wasting these performances. His over 400 yards, Jamar 264. It didn't look like a Bengals Ravens game it was 7-7, and it's you're thinking, what in the world is this? And you're right. I thought the Bengals did a really good job defensively, and then a few plays and it just totally flips and gets drunk. And I hate to gloat, because I know a lot of Bengal fans are hurting right now. But I predicted 35-34 Ravens. I don't know if I've ever got one on the nose before, but I got this one on the nose. So feeling kind of good about that. But
Yeah.
I know people listening probably don't want to hear that right now. They would have rather I didn't get that one right. But it was weird the way it just hit overdrive and went from a 7-7, what's going on here, to, okay, this looks like Lamar versus Burrow.
There are a lot of different elements here that we want to dive into. We need to talk about the fumble and some of the this is something that we've talked a lot about on this, right? These losing plays at winning time, and how this game turned really the moment Marlon Humphrey stripped that ball out. We got to talk about what's happening at the end of these games. Some of the things said in the locker room about that were really interesting. It was a pretty popular theme post game. We need to talk about the defense and the duality of this defense in this game, that they were it was like two different groups. It was like the varsity left at one point and sent the JV in to finish the game off. We're going to talk about the 2-pointer at the end, the play, the penalties that weren't called, the decision, and kind of where they go from here. There's a bunch of stuff to get here. Before we dive fully into that, I do want to remind everybody we are going to have a live show, sort of our mid-season media madness show, down at BetMGM Nation Kitchen and Bar at the Bank. Such a great venue. That's going to be Monday at 7 o'clock. It'll lead you into Monday Night Football. And there's a lot to dive into where this team is at in the mid-season. Myself, Jay, James Rapine, some of the others, the media group that we'll have down there. We're going to give away we have an orange Joe Burrow jersey we're going to be giving away. We have a full-size helmet we're going to be giving away. We're going to have graders. We're going to have $3 Cincy lights. You're going to have Q&As with us if you have questions for anything that's going on there. I'm sure James will bring some books, some Out of the Jungle books. We'll have all kinds of stuff. We're going to be down there. We hope to see you down there. It's going to be a great time. And we'll discuss any direction you want to take it, and we'll take it a number of different directions ourselves. Also, shout out to Cincy Shirts. You can go to Cincy Shirts, use Growler Pod as your promo code. You get 10% off anything you buy. You can get Cincinnati football stuff. You can get stuff from anything you want to get at Cincy Shirts. They have so many great things, all Cincy, all the time. Love it. Make sure you go there and check them out. All right, let's talk about this. What was your main takeaway from this game, Jay?
Whew, so much to take away. I guess my main takeaway was it was 100% the right decision to go for two there at the end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I even tweeted that after Baltimore took the lead. I said, okay, the Bengals are going to have a minute 48 to work with in one timeout to go down and get a touchdown and tie the game, ... or go for the win. It just felt like if it was under a minute left, that would be the right play to go for two there. And I don't know. I've seen it. I think most people are on board with the decision to go for it, just like Lamar Chase said 100%. Hell yeah, he said. Yeah, the play call. It wasn't as though the play call was throw it to Tanner Hudson no matter what, but he was first in the progression. Burrow never got off of him because he was getting hit right and left all night, and he had pressure on that play. He took 13 hits tonight. It was the second highest that he's had in a game. Or I'm sorry, it was the third highest. Second highest was week 5 against Baltimore. If he had a little more time, he would have seen Lamar Chase coming across the back line of the end zone, and he would have thrown it to him, and they would have got it. Who knows what happens from there? 38 seconds still for the Ravens with 2 timeouts to get in Justin Tucker field goal range. Not a crazy thought there, but yeah, I thought that was absolutely the right decision to go for 2 in that spot.
Yeah, I don't even to me it's a no-brainer. Did you watch the Chiefs game the other day? I mean, it's the same thing. The Bengals defense had led up 4 straight touchdown drives. You don't want that game to be a coin flip. You want that game to be Joe Burrow go make a play for the win. Don't let Lamar Jackson be the one that gets to go make a play for the win against your defense that is struggling so badly. That is an absolute, unequivocal no-brainer of a decision in my mind. There's not an ounce in my body that said they should kick that extra point at all. No. And I don't have a problem with the play call. Burrow admitted afterwards. He said, "I wish I could have, probably should have gotten off that first read and progressed and tried to make something happen." And we've seen him do that over and over and over again in really his entire career, in recent weeks, and this night we've seen him do that too. And that always seemed to be the best way, but he kind of got hooked on Tanner Hudson, and then there ends up being a bunch of uncalled penalties that become a part of the storyline here. I don't want to go deep into the ref blaming situation, but I mean, you heard it on the Amazon broadcast from everyone pointing out it's just there's certain things that it can't be so egregious and so clearly missed. And we're coming off of the Kirk Cousins thing, right? The face mask, it gets missed at the end of the game. You get the end of these games, and you just have obvious stuff that gets missed, and that's frustrating for everybody involved, which is ironic coming from the group that throws more flags than anybody in the league.
And they had 14 to that point. Maybe they were dead set on not getting to their 16 average. If you guys, I'm sure those of you that watched it, maybe you noticed it, maybe you didn't. But if you go back on that 2-point conversion where everybody's focusing on the egregious holds on Mike Gesicki, behind him in the shot is Jamar coming across the back line of the end zone, and Brandon Stevens is grabbing his arm and holding him because that's the only thing he could get to. Jamar had so much separation there that all he could do was reach out and get the arm. So really it was 2 holding calls that they missed on that extra point. And again, it was one of those, there was a number of penalties that helped the Bengals get down there. And you just wonder sometimes, do the refs can't swallow the whistle or keep the flag tucked in the pocket when a drive is going so heavily, even if the calls are legit, if they're so lopsided on a given drive, and Joe Burrow said, you're not going to get that call in that situation. You're just not.
And I asked him about some of the, a lot of, we saw some really late hits and some stuff on him tonight that didn't get a flag. And he said, my point was, shouldn't you be getting those calls by now? Like, what do you got to do to be one of those guys? And he said, I've never gotten those calls, so I don't expect to get them now, which is ridiculous. But I don't want to make this about the officiating because there was stuff that went the Bengals had some good luck. I mean, Burrow makes one of the worst decisions that you've seen from him all year in a throw that should have been an interception. He kind of gets lucky that Brandon Stevens wasn't able to get his feet down in the end zone. They get a score off of a penalty on 4th and 3. And again, not that they weren't penalties, but you get flags that bailed them out for their first 2 touchdowns. Like this stuff goes back and forth. It's impossible to be 4-6 with Jamar and Joe Burrow playing at the level. You can make an argument that they each absolutely should be in the conversation for MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, and Defensive Player of the Year for Trey Hendrickson, who leads the league in sacks by a wide margin. How can you have those things and not be able to win games? It's unbelievable. I mean, we'll go ahead and read them off to you. You can see them on the bottom of the ticker here. Joe Burrow, 428, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Lamar Chase, 11 for 264 and 3 touchdowns. You know, he already has broken the franchise record for 60-plus yard touchdown receptions in a career. Okay. Isaac Curtis now in the rearview mirror with 10. Jamar up to 12 after 2 of them tonight. And he does them in different ways. And Burrow finds him in different ways. Throws over the top, throws underneath, throws these middle stuff. You've seen him catch balls behind the line of scrimmage and go all the way. He just is playing. He is cementing his spot as what he called himself before the season, the best receiver in football. And I think they're clearly the best duo in football. You can't have these kinds of numbers, these kinds of performances and lose. You know, you don't. That's just not, it's not something that happens. Here's this one for you, Jay. I have this in my story. It's up on The Athletic. You go through over the last 10 years, teams with a 400-yard, 4 touchdown, 0 interception day, the last 10 years, 33-5-1. Teams with a receiver racking up at least 225 yards, 9-1. I mean, Zach Taylor called it sickening that this has happened to them twice. Chase, I think you pointed this out, now has the record for most receiving yards against a team in a single season, and they lost both the games. Like, this stuff is reaching impossible in nature. They are 0-5 in games decided by 6 points or less. What in the world is going on? It's crazy.
And that's where you would think this team would thrive, is in those close games. And yeah, it is crazy. You mentioned the 60-yard touchdowns. He's the franchise leader all time. 50-yard touchdowns. He now has 13 of those. The record for most before you turn 25 is Randy Moss with 14. When you're in company with that guy, that says something. It is. I don't know where you point the blame. Is lack of a run game, lack of protection, really bad defense for most of the year. I don't understand, like you, how you squander these kind of performances. Jamar has 981 yards. He's almost over 1,000 in 10 games. And Burrow right there with Lamar should be 1 and 1A for the MVP conversation. They just need a little bit of help from somebody else. And you would think maybe T. Higgins is that guy when he gets back, and that changes a lot of things. But they've got to find some answers. And for the longest time, it was they were slow starters. Now they're starting great. Another opening drive touchdown tonight. They just can't finish. And that is something that's going to be the fatal flaw of this team if they can't get that fixed.
It is now, and they recognize it, and you know, I can't tell you how many people we sort of asked the question to, how do you start to finish? Like how do you fix that? And there's gotta find a way. You know what you gotta not do? Fumble. You cannot. It was the only thing you couldn't do. Lamar Jackson after the game talked about it woke us up. Like we were kind of sleepwalking, and it woke us up. And he has his crazy 58 yards to go 10 run where he goes all around. It's kind of the latest jaw-dropping Lamar play. He's just unbelievable. So fun to watch. And you have that moment. They score, and the whole play. I'm telling you, they were getting booed.
Yeah.
These fans were booing Lamar Jackson and the number one offense in football against the Bengals defense. They had forced 5 punts, 4 3-and-outs, and allowed just 7 points before that fumble. You're up 14 with the ball and starting to drive. The only thing you cannot do is fumble the football and give them the momentum and change all the energy. Everything shifted after that. Here's the thing, Jay. Go back. Re-rack the Giants walkout from us, okay? Chase Brown's fumble. And Nagy said, look, this can't continue to be a trend. This was the asterisk next to him on his scouting report coming out of Illinois. He had 5 fumbles his senior year. That was a thing. It's like, that can't be a thing in the NFL. They said, oh, it'll be okay. You learn from that. Not here it is again. And a lot of things can and should and will and have been said about Joe Mixon in his career in Cincinnati. And they're all fair. He didn't break enough tackles. He didn't fit the system, whatever. I know F Your Fit shirts. Is anybody wearing the F Your Fit shirts yet? Right. But all those, you know what he didn't do? Fumble. Didn't fumble. In his last 6 seasons here, he fumbled 3 times. Chase Brown has fumbled twice in the last 5 weeks, and this one was devastating. Everybody afterwards, this is how you lose. This is how these games are decided. Turnover battle decides these games every single time. It's always a 1-score game. It always ends up going to the turnover battle. That was the case again. It changed this game in that moment. And the fact they weren't able to get drives going, and you give them the short field and you let them get back within a score just like that, it's just brutal. It's the stuff that can't happen. And you're like, okay, well, put Herbert in. Yeah, well, on his first carry as a Bengal, he put the ball on the ground. And it's like, so what are you going to do? You got to keep giving it to him right now. That stuff just can't happen. It can't happen.
It can't happen, but I think it feels like excuse making, especially for the defense. It was early enough in the game. It's not as though that was at the end of the game and that led to the game-winning drive. Yeah, you give them a short field, they score, crowd goes nuts, momentum changes, all that. It's still 21-14. You're getting the ball back. It's just amazing how they just fell apart there. And You said it, 4 straight touchdown drives. First 7 drives, 5 punts, then 4 touchdown drives. And you look, what was the pivot point? It was the fumble, but defense has to bow up there. I'm not saying they got to hold them to a field goal, but you can't let that short field touchdown drive turn into a long touchdown drive with a ridiculous run by Tylan Wallace, and then another, and then another. I mean, at some point, the fumble was costly. They got some free points off of it, but you can't say that changed the game when you had plenty of chances to get back off the field like you were doing earlier in the game, and you didn't at all.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you've got to be able to respond to that adversity and the defense not completely fall apart. So, I mean, to me, they just regressed into who they had been all year. After all the things they did well for those first 7 drives, they just turned back into themselves again, right? Mike Hilton questioned after the game the effort and want to on the Tylan Wallace 84-yard catch and run. You had 3 missed tackles on that. You have Cam Taylor-Britt, Geno Stone, Logan Wilson, all missing tackles, and it's one to miss one. Okay, 3 missed tackles for a guy to go 84 yards down the sideline. It's unbelievable. But again, is it though? Like, this is what they've done defensively. That was who they had been all year. And then you get, well, hey, here's your chance, right? Here's your chance to answer it and get the turnover to even it, right? As Lamar's coming down to try to get his game go-ahead score. Cam Taylor-Britt can't hold on to an interception. Twice he had interceptions he could have had in this game. Would they have been tough plays? Yeah. These are tough games, man. This is winning in the AFC North against a team that is on a short list of those that can win the Super Bowl. You have to be able to make that play. Young players that need to make these defining plays, these game-changing plays that need to lift this defense. Don't. You miss the tackle. You drop the interception twice. You do all these things, losing plays that cost you the game, and they all add up, and they're not alone.
So I'm only going to credit him with one missed interception because that would have been a hell of a play on the first one. But yeah, the second one, and he kudos to him. He did a good job of trying to sell it. The way he jumped up and ran off the field, and the cameras catch everything. They did see that. The missed tackle was huge for a couple of reasons, and you talked about it. 3 missed tackles on that play. 2 of those weren't missed tackles; they were missed pushes. The guy's right there on the sideline. All you got to do is nudge him out of bounds. But what happened? What's the cliche they talk about all the time? 11 hats to the ball, run to the ball. They didn't do that. If you go back and watch that replay, the defense stopped. They thought Cam Taylor-Britt had him down. He gets away from Cam Taylor-Britt. All of a sudden, Logan Wilson, Geno Stone have to pick it back up again. That little hesitation, and they mentioned this on the broadcast, that was enough to just kind of screw up the angle where they were kind of coming at him from too far behind. I still don't know how Logan didn't get him out of bounds. Yeah. Geno got just the stiff arm to the helmet, just an embarrassing bad look. That's the kind of play. But I think that was the play that really kind of, not to take the blame off of Chase Brown because you can't fumble there, but that's the play that kind of summed up the game and really was the turning point in my mind.
Yeah, and everybody has their hand in it. There's another one to me that I have circled here, and that was the 3rd and 2, 4th and 2 sequence. So I don't have a problem. This was the way. This was the path. Being aggressive in this game and understanding the makeup of your team and what it looks like. They end up going for it 3 out of 4 drive, 3 times in the first half, right, on 4th down. They were aggressive in doing that all game long, and they were aggressive all the way to the end in the 2-point conversion. This was the way. Okay, you're gonna be in a shootout. Your strength is the offense. You're gonna need touchdowns. You can't settle for field goals. And they kept ending up on the edge of field goal range, and we saw the trust. You say you trust Evan McPherson, and I know these would have been long field goals, but I feel like the erosion of the 50-plus Evan thing showed up a touch in a couple decisions tonight in some spots. But I don't have a problem with that. Being aggressive, putting the ball in Burrow's hands, let him go win you these games. I don't have a problem with any of that. What I have a problem with is how you end up in 3rd and 2, 4th and 2, shooting go balls down the field to Jermaine Burton. They had a 4th and 2 with a go ball to Jermaine Burton earlier in the game. It looked like he didn't quite know where he was going on that play. It was a weird one. And this one is just, Burrow said afterwards, I had a one-on-one with a route that I really liked to Jermaine, and I'm going to throw it or whatever. And Jamar, though, was breaking open over the middle, wide open, and admitted it afterwards and was kind of mad, kind of gave a look to Joe. And you don't see everything. You don't get everything. I don't understand how you can be of a mindset on 3rd and 2 and 4th and 2 and just be throwing balls down the field. That is crazy decision making on a night where there's some bad decisions. I mentioned the one earlier, the interception that didn't count in the end zone. I mean, that one by all accounts should have counted. A terrible decision. That's the same thing too. That's like, man, I'm all about, you got your moments to take your shots and you got to take them in progressions and this, that, and the third, but no, not in that spot. You got to be trying to get the first down, keep the drive going. Don't just try to take these shots. You waste and you lose 2 possessions that would have been points by trying to take these shots rather than just trying to get the score. You want to take one, fine. Back to back.
Yeah, that's it.
That's not doing it.
Yeah, because you don't have a problem. If you know you're going to go for it on 4th down anyhow, you don't have a problem, or I don't have a problem taking the shot on 3rd down, especially if you got the coverage you want, the one-on-one and Joseph.
Jamar.
Yeah. And So that I had no problem with that, but then come back with a more sensible play on 4th and 2 than a shot, not just a shot, but a shot to Jermaine Burton. I mean, a guy that I mean, obviously, I was like, well, Joe, trust him if he's going to him, and the one pass that he did catch in the red zone, the 11-yarder for a first down. If he's going to him in that situation and going to him on 4th and 2, I don't think the trust issue is a problem between those guys. But it was, I didn't understand it, and it was funny because when the game was over, I came upstairs to get something, and my wife had been watching it upstairs, and I just heard something too. What the? And I guess Mo can say it on the show. I could say it too. You know what she said.
Yeah.
And I was like, going for 2 is absolutely the right call. And she's like, not that. The 4th and 2 long deep ball. And I was like, oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
That was not good. I think everybody realizes that. And it's surprising because they not just that Jamar was open and he didn't see him, but just the Burrow, I don't know, hubris to take that shot there when it was, there were so many other ways they could have gone with that. And you're right, it came back. Was that the one that would have been like a 52 or 51 for Evan? They were at about the 34-yard line, I think. That wasn't the 58-yarder that they passed on for that one. No.
Yeah, it would have. Yeah, I'm not sure the exact number that it would have been there, but yeah, something in that range. Yeah, a little bit closer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like 4th and 1 in your last drive of the Super Bowl and trying to take a shot to Lamar Chase, right? I mean, it's like it's something you appreciate about him in the killer instinct and the willingness to try to make that throw in that moment. But that's a high degree of difficulty throw, and we just seen Joe Burrow like create magic so many times on these 4th and shorts. I mean, we saw over and over again last week where he would scramble around, find somebody. He did it all the time in this game, and to not do it there, that's a tough one. That's a tough one to handle. The path forward now is harder. And you're sitting here saying, how is this team 4 and 6? But this is the reality, and it gets a little thinner now. They do look like a team that's better than 4 and 6. Like you watch that, and the way they have been right there with the best teams in this league, the Ravens twice now, and what you saw with Kansas City. It's like, man, how do you not win any of those games? And you have to face it that they've got to find a way. I think they find a way. I think that not they're going to get in. I think they stay relevant. I think they'll win games. They're just, what they have going right now is just too good with Jamar. You're going to get T. Higgins back. Like teams that play like that they're not going to keep losing. You're not going to play the Ravens every week. And they don't play teams like the Ravens really much anymore. But man, you just know you can't lose all these one-score games. You can't be 0-5 in 6-point games or less and think that you're still going to be anywhere near where you want to be. They're going to it's I don't know, there was some positivity. I thought Zach Taylor was, afterwards kind of saying, look, we're going to get there. We're going to be there at the end. We're going to get to where they want to be. That's a nice thing to say. It's the same, but you just know you're going to look back at the end of the season and say, bing, 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 and point to those 4 games and say, how did you win none of those?
Yeah.
How did you waste 264 and 428? And now 2 games against Baltimore where you had a double-digit lead in the second half of those games. You waste them. You can't do it that way.
Yeah.
You can't get where you want to be playing like that. It's not an outlier problem. It becomes the central theme of the season.
Yeah, and I agree with Zach. I'm not. It's not he that's convincing me. It's my eyes from watching this team. I do expect them to be there at the end, but what you worry about is it's going to take a hell of a run to get there. Obviously, they're capable of doing it. It's different in 2022 when they won all those games in a row, and you've talked about it. They were playing the best football that we've ever seen them play. that was different because they were running away from people. And this is chasing people. And every game is a gotta have it game with no margin for error. And you see this all the time when teams do this, when they go on a run just to claw their way into the postseason. By the time they get there, they're spent. And you could easily see that they go on a great run, they make it into the playoffs, and then you could see just kind of a clunker in the wild card round. And it almost doesn't make sense to be talking about that because they're 4-6 right now. They're so far away, but you can see the path because you're right. They're not going to play anybody anywhere close to the Ravens after this. And it's there for them. They just have to get some things figured out on defense. It was real. I mean, Lou was shuffling guys all over the place tonight. Again, Jordan Battle and Von Bell about 50-50 on the snaps. He had Josh Newton coming in and spelling DJ Turner at times. He doesn't like to rotate those guys, and he's being forced to. Either he's being forced to because they just don't know who the best fit is, and you gotta get these young guys some seasoning and hope maybe you see, okay, that's our guy moving forward. But right now, it's just the defense is it's. You thought it was better, and maybe that's why Joe took that deep shot. He's like, I'm not going to waste a defensive performance like this. If they're playing like this, I'm gonna take some shots. But to force 5 punts in the first 7 possessions and then have it end that way, it feels like so many of the Washington game, the first Baltimore game, where it almost feels like the same thing where you just couldn't get off the field at all, even though they did a really good job through 2+ quarters.
And you lose again scoring 30+. It's like crazy. But so it goes. Reminder to everybody, go to Cincy Shirts. You get 10% off anything with Growler Pod as your promo code. You can also get to that with the link on our just go to our QR that you have right up here in the corner if you're watching us on YouTube. If you are, click subscribe and leave nice comments, ratings, all that stuff that helps us get out to more of the fans that are out there. We will be back with more again, the live show on the 11th. So come on down to BetMGM Nation Kitchen and Bar at the Banks, and make sure you go to Cincy Shirt. It was the no lose Joe Vember hoodie was up there. So maybe the no lose Joe Vember hoodie isn't quite going to do it, but there's plenty of other good stuff that they have up there to go check it out. Make sure you check out all their different collections from sports to everything else. So head on over to cincyshirts.com and use GrowlerPod in the promo code. All right. I gotta get back and get some sleep. I'm gonna get like 2 hours in, and it's always the worst. So you'll see me tonight. Just know that there's going to be I'm going to be a little rough tomorrow when you see me, but we'll be down there at Locker Room. We'll be down there at the press conference, and we'll have more for you coming next week. So from Baltimore, signing off, and we will talk to you next time. Have a good one, everybody.